Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me here. It's good to be here and to share. Um, I just want to start off and saying I started studying soil when I was 15, and I really never looked back. There's a lot to learn, and I'm still fascinated today as much as I was when I first started. And so, um, some time ago in my career, I was working for a soil testing lab, and it was uh, a lab that was focused on the teachings of Dr. Reams. And so that was, and he was the person that really popularized and really developed the BRIX chart in his mind, and then eventually got uh, published, and it went uh, around the world. And so, a little bit about me. I live in southern Minnesota, and have family, 5 kids, 4 grandkids. And so really liking the grandkid part. That's really fun. Real nice, because you get about, my conclusion is you get about 80% of the joy and only about 10% of the work. So it's really good. So, um, today I'm going to talk a lot about BRICS, but before I do that, I just want to there's a lot of broad talk about a lot of things in agriculture, and I have a long-term vision that we start with the restoration of soil, which, if we do that right, will help to restore food quality. And and, and so, and if we continue with that, then the restoration. Can you see on over there? Can you see this at all? Okay. Then that'll restore human health if we can have a food supply that is restored. And ultimately, as people get their health restored and their vitality, it leads to people being able to do more restoration of the land and the things that they're part of in life. And ultimately, it would be many people are going toward it, but the restoration of biomes and regions, and with a bigger goal of restoring the earth. So you want to see a lot of restoration. So that's the big picture. But in my opinion, each one builds off of the other. And ultimately, at the foundational level, it is the restoration of soil, and then that building to food, where we really have to focus at. And I would say that a lot of our food, a majority, vast majority, is of average to poor quality. And you can find that across the board with um, conventional food or organic food. A lot of times the nutrition is not there. So what we need to do is build a cascade of nutrition that starts in the soil and moves up to the food. So my talk today, other than just that introduction, is I'm pretty much talking here and then just a little bit of the benefits of human health. And that's where I'm going to focus at today. How many here are raising food? A garden or produce that you sell? Okay, good. I'm a, a decent consultant and a pretty poor gardener, and so I'm going to just share the secret of being a great gardener is just only one thing, right? Just do the right thing at the right time. So simple, right? So easy to say, right? And so I'm not actually a very good gardener because I'm not doing the right thing at the right time. I'm usually pretty busy at the wrong, and so I'm not doing the right thing. So I don't come with saying I'm doing it all right. So, but how many here would like to have food that tastes fabulous and you feel very satisfied after you've eaten it? Anybody? How many would like to sell that kind of food? Okay? And so that's what we're going to discuss today is that there's a lot of theory and a lot of things, and And I would say that the previous session dealt a lot with the restoration of land, but I'm going to narrow down that to soil and to specifically food quality and measuring food quality today. I'm going to present kind of some context before I talk about BRIX, because BRIX is very simple, but its significance is large. And so the context is actually very important. I'm going to go through that, and then I'm going to try to have some time for some questions at the end. And I probably will have some time. So food that's of very high quality has a shelf life. It holds in storage. It has cell walls that have been built properly with calcium that is needed. It has a full range of minerals. It tastes very good. It tastes very sweet. It'll have a sweetness, but the flavor of what that is. So if it's a carrot, it'll have a nice carrot flavor with sweetness. Some of the genetics may cause something to have a certain spiciness, or some of the phytonutrients in say green chilies will be much more potent. Okay, as I had a grower, for example, that had it was jalapenos, which are not so spicy compared to other kind of peppers, and he was working very hard for nutrition, and he gave it to a local chef. Here, try this. And the chef knows what a jalapeno tastes, took a bite, and that chef couldn't handle the jalapenos because they were much more potent. Yeah. Okay, so we want to have another way to say it is potency or vibrance to the produce. Okay, a lot of times if you have produce that has any kind of an aromatic trait, so cilantro or rosemary, it's the vibrance and the smell and the aroma is amazing. So that's what can be when we have higher food quality. In the marketplace today, we are basically getting, it's like we're getting 20% of what we should have in our food, 30%, and it's just barely enough in the fresh produce market. It's just barely enough that it doesn't rot a lot of times. Now, you can find some exceptions here and there, but it's not common. So we have become so used to eating poorer quality food that we don't even have a reference point anymore to what is high quality. And especially the younger generation. And a lot of them hate vegetables with a passion, right? And for good reason, okay? They don't taste good. All right. So that's kind of the ultimate goal of this talk, is to present this idea. But before I get into BRIX, I really want to spend some time and go back to the foundations and the fundamentals to put the context of BRIX in place. And so this might seem like an insult to intelligence, but it's not. It's really the fundamentals. And if we can understand that, then we can understand how to work with BRIX and improve it. All right. In any operation that we're growing, there is biology at work. But biology is performing and working with chemistry. And biology and chemistry rest on the foundation of physics. So at any one point in time, biology, chemistry, and physics are all working simultaneously and complementary. They're working at the same time. Sometimes in in this day where we have a lot of information, there's just an overload of information. It's very easy to specialize. And so some people may say, well, really, it's all about biology. It's all about biology. That's the important thing. Well, it is the important thing. And others, older school, might say, no, no, you're forgetting chemistry. Don't forget chemistry. You've got to go back to chemistry too. Well, chemistry is equally important, as is physics. Now, you don't hear a lot about physics, but physics is the foundation. And so I want to spend a little bit of time talking about some of the physics in place. And to do that, I want to look at energy. Okay, so raising a crop, like all of living, is all about energy. Okay, and so we have this classic equation in society that says E equals mc squared. And I don't know all the implications of that. Okay? Okay? So Dr. Reams, who was my mentor's mentor, and the developer, kind of the person who really popularized the BRIX chart and used it for a long period of time, and then it got published in the 80s. He said, well, when it comes to biology, this is a little bit too broad. So he said, well, it's actually E1 plus E2 equals mc squared. Okay, so we know this is a conversion factor, and don't ask me to explain it all, okay? But we know what this is. That's matter. So this is heat. This is electromagnetic. And this is matter. Okay? So those are three forms of energy. Now when you look at this, where is your tomato crop in here? It's matter. Yes, there's your tomato crop. So when we're raising a crop, we are having a congealing or a physical combining of heat and electrical energy, heat energy, thermal energy, or E1, and electromagnetic, which is the electromagnetic is coming from the properties of minerals and nutrients that can be electromagnetic. So if we have produce, here's a bulb of garlic. Okay, it contains energy in the form of heat. It also contains minerals, and it is matter right here. But we could dry it, and we could burn this garlic. Heat energy would be given off, and what would remain is ashes. Okay, so that is the three forms of energy that are part of physics that is all happening in growing a crop, the end result of a crop. So now I have a real deep question. What is a plant? Okay, this is for participation. What do you think? I mean, we know that it's some green thing that, but go ahead.
It's an energy conversion.
Energy conversion. That's part of it. Yes, absolutely. There's more, though. A plant is an energy accumulator, and then it converts it. Okay, how does it convert it? According to its DNA sequence, right? It'll convert it accumulates energy, and it converts it to what the genetics of that plant are. So if we want higher quality plants or food so we can sell, let's say we want the best tomatoes in the marketplace, we're going to have to accumulate more energy. Okay? A plant, so there's more to a plant though. So let's just say an energy accumulator. Conversion. Now let's dive in a little bit. A plant has the upper portion, and it has a lower portion of roots. Okay? Leaves, stalks, stems, it's got some fruit, but it's got leaves up here. Do you realize that a plant has the ability to receive nutrients, okay, out of the air and through its root system? Okay? In the realm of physics, that's a lot like an antenna. Okay? So a plant has an antenna where it actually receives on the electromagnetic realm, it's receiving elements through its roots. And it has a, I am getting to BRIX, but I'm giving the context, okay? And it has an antenna where it receives elements through its leaves. So that's actually a double antenna, one above ground, one below ground. But there's so it's an antenna, and then it does something else. A plant also is a transmitter. Okay? Now, this is again in the realm of electromagnetics. So, if we haven't had good nourishment, poor sleep, a lot of stress, what happens? We get sick, right? Plants get the same stress. Okay? And if they are stressed out, they don't have enough nutrition, they're short on water, they're stressed. Well, what happens? Plants are given off an electromagnetic frequency that could call in insects and bugs or disease, just like we may be more susceptible to getting a cold if we have stress. So is everybody tracking with what the background of what is a plant? Okay, so again, I'm looking a little bit more at the physics, and then we're going to get into the BRICS. All right, so now we're going to go into a little bit more into the subject of this topic, which is what is BRICS? So BRICS is, in a more classical definition, it's the measure of light or the bend of light as it passes through a liquid. So you can take some leaves, put it in and get the juice out, and then you can measure the refraction of that light, and that is the BRICS. So if there is covalent bonding, if there is total dissolved solids, and if there's carbohydrates, that increases the bending of light. So it's a very nice little instrument. We, of course, already have a good judge of quality with our sense of taste, right? We can taste something if it's good or not, but that's a little subjective. And whereas a BRICS reading you can use a tool and get an objective reading and chart it out. And so you can look at it in terms of the leaves. So what do you BRICS? You can BRICS leaves, or you can BRICS the actual produce of what you eat. So the BRICS chart that Dr. Reams developed is the BRICS chart of the actual produce. Okay? So what we're looking at when we have a BRIX reading is how healthy, how vibrant is that plant. Now, the truth is leaves are variable. They're a little bit up and down, okay? And so if it's been sunny and it's been several days of sunny, it's producing more sugars and it's going to have a higher BRIX. At the same time, though, those sugars are sent down to the roots or to the fruit, so then it drops it down. So you got a lot of this going on with the leaves. The produce at the end of the season, your tomato, what's the BRIX? That gives you the sum of what your whole environment was for the growing season and how well was that environment in keeping what that tomato needed. It's going to try to reproduce. It will do the best it can, but the environment determines how well it was done. Was there enough water? Was there enough nutrition? All right, so so BRIX is really kind of how we're measuring the accumulation of energy, going back to energy. So let's imagine we got an old-fashioned, we're going to talk about the BRIX of leaves at the moment. Let me just talk about when to do that. Because they're variable, I would suggest a sunny day that was the previous day was sunny, and you take a certain time, say 10 o'clock, you can decide your time, and then you take a leaf. Let's say you want to take your potato leaves, and I use a mortar and pestle, and I smash it to a pulp that breaks up the liquids and smashes it and mixes the liquids between the cells, within the cells. This is a window screen mesh, a vinyl window screen mesh. I put the pulp on here, squeeze the juice onto the refractometer, which then measures the bend of light. And the refractometer I use is an Otago PAL 1. You can use an optical or a digital. The older you get, the more you like the digital. I like the digital. I also like it because I can take a picture and I can verify it. Okay, just take a picture. The optical will give you a very good reading. Nothing wrong with it. It's cheaper, but you'll like this one better. Okay, put the leaf in there. Okay, so now let's, so that's kind of when you may want to do it. If it rains, you're going to have a low number. So that's not maybe where you're actually at. But I'll just tell you a brief story. I had a new gardener. He had potatoes, small garden, and he did a soil test, did the broadcast of minerals, had his potatoes, and he called and said, I have a problem. I got Colorado potato beetles on my leaves. Okay, what should I do? Fertilize, foliar spray. Okay, we had to give him all these nutrients earlier. Do it. The next day, the Colorado potato beetles were off his potato plants and on the grass surrounding the garden. Okay. Next day, also, it had been raining, so it was rainy, and the next day, they were back in his garden. Okay. What happened? The electromagnetic energy of that plant leaf and the fertility of that soil was not yet built up enough to the point where the electromagnetic energy coming was not attracting the bugs. I've said that in a very complicated way, but he was right in that borderline region. So he did it again, put some more nutrients out, and then foliar sprays. So what he didn't have the benefit of is that repeated year-to-year soil test, broadcast the needed minerals, and then build that up so that the biology and the nutrients are more available through biology. He didn't have that. It was his first year garden. So he did the best he could. And then after that, it got sunny and he had no more Colorado potato beetles. Okay. So he was not needing a pesticide. He was needing more energy. Okay. And I'll get to that part later. So let's look at the BRIX of leaves. So imagine we have some kind of an old-time radio, okay? And we got this dial, and we got this. So we're going to say that on the left side here is low vibration, low frequency, well, however you want to call it, and over here it's high. In this case, we're going to look at BRIX on leaves. So if we're down in the 6 to 8 BRIX on your leaves, so we're down here on this side, we have 6 to 8. That is the region where the plant is not very healthy. It doesn't accumulate energy in the leaf very well. In fact, it's leaking energy, hemorrhaging energy, and nature abhors a vacuum. So it's going to use that energy. So now we have a problem where we have an environment for aphids. Okay? Now, it doesn't happen automatically sometimes, but it can. This is that range where you don't have enough energy, but that is actually a good food source for aphids, so they come. When we drive along the roads and we look out, how many look and see a dead raccoon on the road? Anybody see that? Okay. Do you go like, ooh, lunch? No, I don't think so, right? We are not tuned to dead raccoons on the road to be lunch. They could be, but who wants to, right? That's gross. But at this BRIX, that's lunch. Okay? Now we move up a little bit. We're tuned the dial. Let's tune the dial up a little higher. This is the BRIX of leaves. 7 to 9. I'm just gonna, and that's sucking kind of insects. 7 to 9 BRIX. Okay, and then I'll just give you the rest. You can, if you want to write them down. 9 to 11 BRIX, you can have problems with chewing insects. And 10 to 12 BRIX, grasshopper groups of insects. When you get over that 12, let's say you get to 14 or above, that's really good, healthy plant. Really good, healthy, and it's really good food for higher animals, including us. That's our food. But the lower animals have a different environment they tune in for food. So again, I'll repeat those other two. 9 to 11, chewing insects. 10 to 12, the grasshopper insects. And you get over 14, that's food for higher species. That's really good. Okay, that is the BRIX of leaves. I actually don't spend a lot of time doing BRIX of leaves because I'm just more focused on what do I do to get high quality and high BRIX. That's my focus on that. But it's good to know about this. And it's not that we need to put out more pesticides to get rid of the aphids. No, we need to think in a way that we get more energy accumulating so we don't have that problem. Okay? So let's talk about BRIX of produce. For any questions before I move on?
That generally across all plants?
Yes, in general. For the leaves, it's fairly consistent. If you're doing some things right, just because you have a 7 BRIX doesn't mean you have the problem, but you have the susceptibility to the problem. Okay? Now, where there's a big variation in the BRIX reading is when you start to measure the produce. So a cucumber is very watery and garlic is not, right? So we're not going to get anywhere near the same range for BRIX reading. But Dr. Reams developed a BRIX chart that was started with poor, average, good, and excellent. And that's the beginning of poor. It goes up to the good or average. And so excellent is the beginning of excellent, and it goes further than that a little bit. Now, the way to win in the marketplace is to deliver the highest quality food. That's how you win. And that's how your customers win, or your family, because you're delivering more nutrition and you're delivering more energy and more health impact for them. So when you look at what makes up a BRICS reading, we're looking at carbohydrates. We're looking at the moisture content, and we're looking at minerals. Now, carbohydrates would also include all the secondary plant metabolites, the protein, the lipids, you name it. There's a whole bunch of these things. Now, if you want higher BRICS, you need to reduce the moisture a little. That should go down. And the minerals and the carbohydrates and all those other metabolites need to go up. And you'll have higher BRICS. Moisture content is kind of that, is very important. If you're BRICSing a green bean, if you got more water in that green bean, that's a lower BRICS green bean. If you get a little bit less, you're going to have more BRICS and you're going to have better flavor. Now, here's what I have found, because I've looked at 3 ways to test food quality. The first one, we all do every day with sense of taste. The second method is with BRICS. That measures the bend of light. The third method is to analyze the food and measure or quantify the minerals present. And I've done that. How much time do I got? 20 minutes. Okay, I thought maybe it was over. Thinking I'm not doing good here. Okay, good. So the 3 methods: taste, BRICS, and analysis. If it doesn't taste good, it's not good. Forget it. If it tastes good, check it on the BRICS if you want. If it BRICS is really good, check it against the chart, then you can analyze it. So here's what I have found very consistently. BRICS and taste correspond. If the BRICS goes up, it's going to taste good. If it's low, it's not going to taste good. Okay? There's another correspondence. Carbohydrates and all the secondary metabolites and the minerals also go up or down together. Okay? They rise together or they fall together with some factors. So, for example, if your soil is very deficient in manganese and you have a lot of other things working right, your minerals will go up, but the manganese is short. I've seen that through analysis. So when I was working in the past, I developed a nutrient density analysis test in our lab. And so I measured a lot of different produce, and I saw that what the pattern was in the soil, sufficiency of something, was exactly what I saw in the produce. And I would test the soil, and I would test the food. Okay, and I would compare against the USDA data. And the USDA data is a slow-moving average of what's in the stores right now. That's really all it is. It answers the question, what nutrients are in food? It does not answer the question, what nutrient levels should be in food. It does not answer. The USDA doesn't know. And guess what? The universities don't know either, because they're not asking the question. But if you can produce that kind of food, the customer doesn't really care about what the universities or the USDA says. They just want that taste, that flavor, that health impact. Okay? So those are the things. If we can increase the dry matter, we're going to have a higher BRICS reading. Okay, so how do we do that? Okay, so the most important thing to remember is this. is this word right here. Environment. You're the grower. You're the manager. You determine the environment of that plant. The things that you do directly impact. Now I know there's a lot of movement toward looking at nature, copying nature, and saying, aha, we have arrived. Okay? This is it. This is the standard. In reality, nature is struggling just like we are. Okay? It's surviving, thankfully, but it is not a standard of optimum excellence. Okay? And when we start to measure stuff, we realize we need to take the best principles of nature, but then we need to add what we're good at, what humanity is good at. When we plowed the prairies, when we cut down the woodlands, okay, prior to that, nature was managing that land. After we plowed and cut the woodlands, we said, we're going to manage the land. Now, sometimes we've done that really, really poorly. But if we take that responsibility, we can manage in such a way that it produces excellent, healthy crops for people and still maintains a health in the environment. Okay? So, environment is determined really and truly by your actions. Nature is no longer farming that land once it's been plowed, once it's been cut the land, the timber. So we do. And the way so we can make small changes to increase the BRIX by how we fertilize. We can foliar spray, nutrition. We can put some things that stimulate biology. So biostimulants are great. We can add some nutrition. If it's short in copper, we can put something immediate. Okay, that will do an incremental step up. But the ultimate thing we need to think about is how can we create an optimum environment where it will naturally just grow highest quality. And my conclusion is, after looking at a lot of gardens and looking at the same soil year to year and talking to growers and saying, okay, how did that go for you this year? And my conclusion is quality comes down to the levels and ratios of available minerals. That is the unpopular message today. Okay? Because the popular message is, cover crops, green manure, composting, whatever. There's a lot, and those are okay tools. But the one thing that's almost always omitted is, if there's not an optimum, it's to not optimize the levels of minerals or nutrients in the soil. That is the hidden message you don't hear much about. But in my experience, looking at BRIX, analyzing produce, and looking at garden soils year after year after year, if you're short of calcium, what? You need calcium. And a cover crop doesn't give it to you. Okay? I'm not saying cover crops are bad. I didn't say that. But we have to take and manage the environment. If we manage the major minerals, we manage the secondary minerals, and we manage the trace elements, and then we provide the rare earth elements, because the word I was looking for is reductionist. Okay, you said it, didn't you? Is that what you said? Okay, but we have a kind of a reductionist mentality. But okay, so our reductionist mentality says plants haven't really been proven to need iodine, for example. But every single cell of our body needs iodine. So don't we need to be putting some iodine out there? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We should be putting out some kelp meal because it's an iodine accumulating plant, and we're just a little ways away from the ocean here. And so we're not getting any iodine enriched rain. So we need to put it out. And if we don't, it's not in the soil. And if it's not in the soil, it's not going to enter the pipeline to go from the soil to our body. Okay? Our thyroids, every cell needs it. And, our babies need iodine. And that first colostrum for the babies, it needs to be rich in iodine. That stimulates the immune system. It's very important. We need our children to be healthy. And so we got to get it out there. And I have found that the big changes come with soil test yearly, broadcast the minerals based on the need of the soil test, looking at all 4 groups: major minerals, secondary minerals, trace elements, rare earth elements. Repeat every year. Now, there's a little more to it, and this is not a soil course. I don't have time to go into it, but that's the outline. We do need to energize that system with more energy for the microbes to be able to digest those rock powders, the soil amendments. There needs to be some energy. And I don't have time to go into that, but it is important. But optimizing the soil is where we're going to have the big impact of changing the BRIX reading. And don't forget the full spectrum. We need full spectrum nutrition in our soil so that we can have foods that have full spectrum nutrition to optimize our health. So we're moving minerals, but it's these minerals and carbohydrates and all these elements that's carrying energy. So it's a pipeline of energy going from the soil to us or to the consumer. And that's how I have found what actually works to get the BRIX high in the produce. It does work. Is it cheap? No. That's why it's not very popular. Is it immediate? No. A lot of those minerals come from insoluble forms: limestone, gypsum, soft rock phosphate, and other broad spectrum trace mineral rock powders. They must be digested by the biology. It takes a little time. But when it happens, the complexity of the flavor is amazing. The satiety that you feel after you've eaten that food is amazing. It's like, oh, I ate this much, I'm feeling full. Okay? It's a difference than what we have been fed for a long time. Question?
Going back to iodine, I guess any of the big drugs, iodine.
A lot of the products have low levels coming from liquid seaweed type products. So there is a little bit, it's not a strong dose. I will mention that if there is iodine present in the soil, spinach and carrots are 2 natural iodine accumulating plants. So if you put on extra iodine in the system, they'll really raise the amount of iodine. And so that's a whole area of food called biofortification, which could be done and documented, and you could have a food form of high iodine. Okay? Carrots, there's probably more, but almost every food is it's specialized and it can take up more of something if it has available. Okay?
And then you use different drugs, they all have iodine, those that break it down.
The question was asked, if you use a lot of products that have iodine in it, would it bring it up? Yes, it would. It would bring it up in the soil. With the trace elements, and especially the rare earth elements, it's not that you need a lot of it, you just need the right amounts there. And then the body kind of sorts that all out. Same way in the soil. I don't know how much we need, but I'll take cobalt because I've looked a lot at cobalt. I would like to see 2 pounds an acre of cobalt available. Most soils are way less than 1 pound. They're like 1/10 of a pound, or you can't find them on a soil test because nobody's putting cobalt out there. But we do need it. And cobalt, by the way, jazzes up microbes. And we're all a bag of microbes walking around in our gut, right? So if we can get more cobalt in us, we're going to jazz up our own microbiome. Okay. So now I want to mention, so the short summary is that when food is given the right nutrition, when plants are given the right nutrition in soil, the food that it produces will be outstanding in flavor and aroma and impact on the health. And I've taught this for many, many years. I'm going to share something. My wife is from India, and she grew up in India. She learned Indian cooking, and her mom was a really good cook, and kind of set a high bar for my wife. And my wife was kind of told to get out of the kitchen because she just was. I don't know. But anyway, so we got married. She didn't know how to cook. So, but she had her mom's reference to what really good cooking was. And so over the course of a few years, she became, it took a while, but she became as good of a cook in Indian food as her mom. And plus she's learned American food. So she's done well. We lived in India for 6 years, then came to America. So one of the standard foods is in India is chicken curry. Anybody eat chicken curry? Okay. So chicken curry it's kind of a spicy gravy that has chicken pieces in it, and it's cooked in a way that, and you put it on top of rice, kind of mashed potatoes and gravy, but an Indian version, right, with meat in it. So I had been eating my wife's chicken curry for about 20 years at that time, and so we had moved to the States, and I was gardening better than I am now. And I was really focusing on high quality plants and soils that was really healthy. And then I would check the BRIX of the produce, and I was looking at everything. So I'll just take one example. Cilantro from the question, Peggy. 5 minutes. Okay, good. Because after this story, I'm just going to take questions. So I'm almost done. Thank you. Cilantro, if it's in the store, it may be 8 bricks, something like that, and doesn't have as much smell as it should. We had some like 15 or 15 and a half bricks cilantro. You just brush it and it smells. You taste it and the flavor explodes in your mouth. You can't, until you taste it, you can't hardly describe it. It's amazing. So this summer, it was a summertime, we had harvested a number of things. We had 8 to 9 bricks tomatoes. Most of the tomatoes are 5, 4, 6, somewhere in there. Garden tomatoes maybe 6. Store-bought tomatoes 4. We had harvested onions that were high bricks. We had garlic that was high bricks. I don't have time to get into all of it, and we had the serrano peppers that were high potency. So not only is it high bricks, it's high potency. It's high flavor. And we had some organic free-range chicken that we had butchered of our own. And we were just making chicken curry like normal. Somebody had sent us some ginger from Georgia. So the only thing that really wasn't high bricks in this making of this chicken curry was the dry spices. Everything else was high potency vegetables. So my wife just made it like normal. And it was, smelled good. When it was time to eat, this was the first time that had ever come together for me, that every component was high quality. I took a bite, and I had been eating her chicken curry for 20 years. Okay? This was not new. She's a good cook. It was like somebody took a 2x4 and hit me on the head. It was like, oh, I just didn't know what to say. It was like, and the only thing I could think was, huh, I have been eating the shadow of chicken curry for 20 years. Now this is the real. Anybody hungry? Okay. Um, it was amazing. And so anyway, I've never forgotten that. And until somebody, so I always knew, high BRIX foods taste good. I never thought about the implication in terms of if you cook with them, it's all together, you can create something that nobody has ever tasted. Okay? All right. I'm going to leave one thing here. I just want to tell you that I am producing a little newsletter called Soil, Plant, Leaf. So I delve into feeding the soil, feeding the plant, feeding the leaf. Okay? If you would like that newsletter, just text me. And for now, I'm just sending it for now. So ask for it.
What is that?
It is 507-236-9076. And apparently, I didn't leave any time for questions. So I guess, do we have a couple minutes? Okay. So any questions? Yes.
So, if the produce is meal or whatever, does it matter the time you eat when you pick it or what the recipe will be as a produce?
Question was asked, does it matter when you harvest something what the BRIX will be? 90% of it's already built. Yes, if you let it vine ripen, it's going to be better. Okay, but a lot of the nutrition is already there. If it's starting to turn and you pick it and you need to get it to the marketplace, 90% of it's there. So I wouldn't worry about that. Yes, if you have the option, pick it at the very best, but that's hard to work with logistically. Any other question? Yes. Same thing. Yes, you've got to meet nature's requirements for quality. And most people aren't doing that. Okay, so vegetables are different than fruit. And the difference is vegetables are very aggressive at taking trace minerals out and putting it in the food. And you remove a lot of earth minerals with vegetables. A lot. Grain crops and fruit trees actually remove very little earth minerals per acre. It's mostly moisture, carbohydrates, nitrogen, atmospheric elements. The removal is not much, but until you build up the right levels and bring it optimum, you're still going to produce low quality fruit. Okay? Any other questions? Yes.
Where could a person buy something that would have cool?
Would have what? Cobalt.
Yes.
Yeah.
As I'm looking it up here, all the tonight.
Well,
It's found in vitamin B12.
yeah, vitamin B12 has the center core of cobalt. Well, when I do make fertility recommendations with soil, and I guess I'll just tell you it's fixmysoil.com. That's where I make all the recommendations for them. It's not my business, but I make those. And I'm looking at cobalt, and I usually will make a recommendation if needed, a couple pounds of cobalt sulfate per acre. Cobalt sulfate. Okay. And it's an animal ingredient, feed ingredient. It's available. We just have to apply stewardship and go do it. Same with molybdenum. We're looking at selenium, and we're about to start working with selenium. We need selenium. Your question, sir.
Have you done any work? I was thinking about the electromagnetic forces. This is what have you done any work like copper poles, wire poles?
Question was asked, have I done any work with copper poles and stuff for the electromagnetics? So that's a good question. And the answer is no. I'm not going to dice it though or dismiss it. But here's my approach. I like to work with physical products to impact electromagnetics. Because what I have found is if you rely on electromagnetics to impact electromagnetics, sometimes that fizzes out, wears out, and if you're not watching it, all of a sudden you're not getting it. And it's too easy to miss that. And so I like to work with physical products. That's my approach. I'm not, I would experiment with it with minerals. That would be my approach.
See it as a trigger.
Okay, I'm all for it. Yeah. Any other question? Yes. The question was asked, is this the same BRIX reading for winemaking? So yes, it is. It is. What we're looking at is a refractometer that is calibrated to percent sucrose. This is an industrial tool as well, so it can be calibrated to, antifreeze standards. That's not what we want. We want percent calibrated to glucose. And so Dr. Reams did not, he only expanded it. It was started by Dr. BRIX from Germany, who looked at the ripeness of vines or of grapes. But Dr. Reams found we can actually measure quality. So that is it's the same thing. Okay, and I'll take this one, and that's the last question.
Kind of along the same lines. Is there a different
scale or like really high sugar things like molasses to get a BRIX reading for molasses?
determine quality?
The question was asked them to get high sugar things. Do they have quality? Well, you're measuring if they're watered down when you're basically, because that's almost pure sugar. But molasses is actually variable when it comes out of production based on a number of factors. And then what industry does is it adds water to make a 79.5 BRIX molasses. So then it's a consistent molasses, but it could be 80, could be 82 the way they get it from the factory. So they standardize it.
Wouldn't be able to measure it.
Not this one. This one here goes 0 to 53. There's other units from the same company that could go higher. Okay, but this is good enough. Garlic is the highest BRIX that I'm aware of. Good garlic starts at 40 BRIX that's been cured garlic. So not you dig it out of the ground. No, wait till it's a little cured, and then you do the check. It's good BRIX will be 40 BRIX, and a lot of stuff in the grocery store is 28, 30. It's not as near as good as it should be. Okay, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate your time, and hopefully it was able to understand. And again, I'll happily send you a newsletter, so just let me know.